What ultimately was the catalyst for you? I mean, you did effectively step away from creating a lot of content around food.
I believe it was burnout. It's just a layer cake of things. I had some very significant health stuff going on. I had a pretty major surgery in 2022, endometriosis and adenomyosis, and really wanted to focus on my healing. I cannot stand social media, and I just was more and more resistant to having to do the song and dance. And I felt very pushed into having to do things that I didn't want to do and that didn't bring me joy in order to keep my business afloat. It's always been challenging for me to sell. Product is very hard for me. It just gives me the ick. It always has. And I just think I hit a wall of all these
Yeah.
things. Perimenopause, menopause, after that surgery, like things change. And like what I want in my life just changed. It was very upsetting time when I hit the wall because my identity was very wrapped up in that part of my life. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. I lost joy with cooking. I just did not recognize myself. It was like an existential crisis. And I've been working on it since then.
I understand it fully. I was talking to my mom yesterday. My mom used to be a potter, and someone asked her, "Come by my studio. We could." And my mom's like, "I don't want to touch clay." And I said to her, I was like, "Well, my problem is I open the fridge and I'm like, I don't want to touch anything in here." I live the lifestyle still and I make myself good food and I do all that. But for
Same.
me, that joy of creation, I'm just not inspired. Like the best thing for me is to get food from my garden that tastes good and do nothing to it.
It was very disorienting, though, to
Yeah.
not feel the way I've always felt about cooking, to feel the opposite. Almost like a mourning process or something that I had to go through, redefining my relationship with it. And it's finally starting to come back. And the way it's coming back is with baking. That's what I really love to do. And it feels really good to have it come back because there's something really beautiful about cooking and creating and playing with ingredients. And I have missed it. And it feels
Mm.
nice to have it come back.
At what point then did you hit the wall, you had burnout, you're reimagining your identity or what this next stage is. And I recently going in a deep dive into the perimenopause, menopausal process, specifically around what changes in our brains
Yeah, the great shedding.
and the shedding, and that the idea of when your reproductive system shuts down, women again start asking the question of what is it that I want or who do
Mm.
I want to be? You answered it in some ways by going back to study something completely different. Tell me about that.
Horticultural therapy. Where I live is a very beautiful part of the country, and it's why I moved back here for after living in Chicago for about 15 years. Nature just it's just inherently healing to me, and we have a beautiful little plot of land here, and gardening has really helped me regulate my nervous system. I tend to be an anxious person, and it just helps me whenever I'm struggling with anything. And there's something really beautiful about tending a plot of land through all the seasons and building the relationships with these plants and learning their behaviors and what they like. It just feels very naturally like I still am trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this. My tendency is anything that I find enjoyable and like and I'm curious about in the past, I've turned it into a business. So gardening, I love flowers and growing cut flowers and gardening and maybe I can somehow tie my love of that into something else that I could build because I do love to build things. I took the a horticultural therapy certification program with a friend of mine and it was very enjoyable. I feel like there's a lot of my past life that I can weave into what I've learned with it and add to it. I think there's a creativity component to gardening and horticulture that is inherent and also very healing. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to maybe do with that. I also got my master gardener along the way too, which I just felt like that's something I had to check off the list.
I like how you say I'm maybe thinking. How more loosely attached to the outcome can you
I'm
be?
trying to be very loosely attached because my
Yeah.
whole life I have been like, okay, what's the next thing I'm building? And
Yeah.
I go into it without being thoughtful about it. and then I'm building this thing and I'm beholden to it and it is my life and identity. And I just want to be really careful about that because I feel like I got really burned with the driving myself into the
Mhm.
ground. I want to respect it enough. I want it to come to me a little bit stronger than I'm going to it. So I
Yeah.
have ideas. I also feel like I'm just recovering from the burnout of everything still a little bit. But
Yeah.
it feels like spring metaphorically. Like I do feel like some things are starting to peek their head above the surface.